All right, everyone. The New York Times penned another hit piece the other day involving Calebcain, a college dropout who was brought through the alt-right rabbit hole on YouTube and almost got radicalized into, I don't know, torch waving or something. And then, thankfully, Jank and people like that, I guess, save him in the end. And so it's a happy ending. This is a modern Satanic Panic article. Link in the description, archived, of course, to the New York Times hit piece, which is what it is. The main thumbnail for it, if you see it online, has like Paul Joseph Watson, who, if you think that he's got radical ideas, I don't know what to tell you, dude. He's like a Ron Paul, paleocon for the most part. If you've ever actually spoken with him, like for 5 fucking minutes, you'd know, not exactly telling you to go bomb things. It's very funny, though. Here's the problem. This is just propaganda. It's more evidence that we're in a social panic at the moment. There's a paradigm shift within politics and I'd say society going on. The old establishment and other people get frightened. Opportunists use that fear in order to sow discord and in order to make money. What you're seeing is the New York Times and the Voxes and the BuzzFeeds and stuff attacking independent commentary, not because the claims that are made in here I'm going to rip apart in a moment. The claims themselves are bullshit. The people at the New York Times are not so dumb that they actually take the idea seriously that people are being steadily radicalized by YouTube. They know that that's not the case. What they're hoping to do, though, is to get these platforms to crack down on their own users, either destroying themselves in the process, well, that's less competition for the legacy media as far as commentary, or to ban people who do commentary, or to muzzle them, so that they are either not competitive or less competitive, so that people at the New York Times can make more money. It's as simple as that. It's very interesting how the so-called press, which really by that we mean the corporate press, and again, New York Times, it doesn't matter whether it's left or right. It can be a Breitbart or a Fox as easily as a New York Times. These people defame regularly through these roundabout methods and through the use of third parties to spread a bunch of bullcrap. They defame and attack their own competitors on these platforms at a whim and never face any real repercussions, even where their claims are patently false, like the Data Society report. If you go through it, you can find a million examples of how it's simply false, but you're not going to see that story on the New York Times. As far as the claims of Calebcain, I'm willing to admit that yes, okay, I'll just take it seriously, his claim that he goes on YouTube, he's sort of down and out, and he starts watching political commentary, and then he becomes obsessed with it or something. I'm willing to say, yeah, it probably happened. But that's his own fault. If you're so small-minded that if you watch one of my videos and you say, wow, this libertarianism sounds good, I think that I'll become alt-right now for no reason. I don't know. I haven't taught you anything, that's for sure. You didn't learn it from me. You might have learned it from somebody else in a recommended video or something. That's on you. You have to use your brain, use your logic, think for yourself. The whole goal of independent commentary is just to express yourself. The whole idea of YouTube is to express yourself. If you're going on there just as a consumer of material and get radicalized because you landed on a Ron Paul speech from 10 years ago, I don't know what to tell you. That's your own failing. It's not society's failing. It's certainly not YouTube's failing, and it's sure as hell not my problem. It's not my problem. It's like remember which shooter was it? It was with the dude who walked into the church and killed a bunch of people, and he had like a Gab account, and then they picked apart his social media, and they're like, wow, he follows InfoWars, he follows Gavin or something like that. And it's like, yes, okay, so these people are responsible for every viewer that they have and everything they do. I'm sure that Calebcain and all these others read the New York Times occasionally. I'm sure they encountered CNN and Fox. Are they culpable? Are they responsible? Or is it like Vox writing up the other day in its secondary hit piece that we need broadcast restrictions because we need editorial boards to determine what people can and cannot consume for information? By the way, let me just say this. It was very funny going through it. He starts out almost uniquely and solely watching just supposedly right-wing content. Now, do I trust the New York Times to properly categorize whether someone is on the right or on the left anyway? No, because they're not unbiased. They're doing this for an economic motive, number one. Number two, yes, the New York Times does provably, objectively, absolutely have a slant towards liberalism. Now, I'm not saying like far left, like communism or something. I'm just saying towards liberalism in a more general, overarching sense. Sort of in a malleable sense, too. Liberal and conservative barely have meaning anymore as terms. Also, can I take exception with something? So often we hear the claim, somebody started watching Styx, or they watched H.A. Goodman, or something like that. They started watching someone libertarian, a classical liberal, a Sargon, like a liberalist or something. And for some inexplicable reason, and the claim is always made in one direction, it's never made that this happens with the left wing of the spectrum. Because the person saw some conservative, like they listen to Ron Paul, some libertarian or something, they all of a sudden they become then a paleocon or a tradcon, and then pretty soon they're goose-stepping down the street. The claim is made, I guess what the claim is being made is that the alt-right is such a powerful ideology that it just leeches and vampirizes everything that's not on the left wing of the spectrum. Why is it that this isn't the case? Why is the New York Times never making the case that this happens on the left? Have they even bothered to study the impact, the political impact of communists or socialists on these platforms? Of course not. You're never going to see a write-up on it. It's one-sided. It's a political witch hunt. It's a bunch of bullcrap. The idea that libertarianism especially even is on the right wing of the spectrum, so-called anyway, other than for fiscal issues, doesn't make sense. Libertarians arguably have more in common with a socialist on moral issues, at least insofar as the so-called dichotomy of U.S. politics goes. There's nothing in common with some crazy evangelical from the Republican Party or something like that. It doesn't make sense. Well, Ron Paul has an R after his name, therefore, libertarianism automatically right-wing or something like that. Yeah, in economics. It's very funny. So in other words, if somebody lands on my video, this is the claim, I guess, that the New York Times and BuzzFeeds of the world make. Somebody's watching my videos and they're hearing how you should leave people alone, corporations should not censor people, we should not burn books, you should think for yourself and like, defend yourself, tyranny bad, liberty good. So they get that message. For some inexplicable reason, this automatically leads them to say, oh, well, I hate ethnic minorities now. What are you talking about? The fact that this claim is entertained is serious. The fact that a mainstream, so-called corporate media outlet is making this claim and not getting immediately lambasted by anyone who knows anything is fantastic. It's hilarious to me. The fact that they don't see the symbol, I'm sure the New York Times would see it because they're doing it as propaganda to make money, but anyone who doesn't see the similarity between this and the claims made in like the 80s, early 90s about metal and stuff like that, oh, little Jimmy started listening to the Beatles, and then pretty soon it was on Iron Maiden, then he was listening to Bathory, and now it's Marduk, and now he's killing cats, so he's worshipping the devil. Little Jimmy decided he didn't want to go to church anymore. Pretty soon he lost his virginity to a Wiccan, and now he's going out and having graveyard orgies. He played a violent video. He played Super Mario Brothers. He was stomping on turtles. Oh my God, so violent and graphic. And then he was playing Turok, and oh my God, now he's gone on mass murder spree. It didn't happen. It was always bullshit. Violent video games, a satellite, like a Stern Universe, sort of talk radio, shock jocks and stuff. Pornography, liberalism, hippie movement, drugs. Oh, it's a gateway drug. Yeah, marijuana's fine, but pretty soon you'll be on crack. It's always the same argument of progression from one thing to another, where you set up a false scenario in which something isn't that bad. Like Styx Hexenhammer is like kind of a libertarian. He's not that bad. But if we let him be platformed, if he goes on recommended videos or something, pretty soon people, they'll watch Malnu, then they'll be kind of a little nationalistic. Then they'll watch Richard Spencer and they'll be talking about gassing people or something. Pretty soon they'll be marching down the street with a machete and trying to kill black people. It doesn't happen. It will never happen. It's bullshit. The entire claim is patently false. And people like Calebcain, okay, so you put your Glock down the counter and started weeping tears. Jank and the Young Turks saved you from being radicalized. It's a radical notion to suggest, I'm going to say this loud and proud until the day I die, the most radical notion I see in modern politics is the idea that a bunch of billionaires running arguably trillion-dollar multinational firms should be the ones determining what does and does not constitute proper politics and proper platforming of individuals speaking. And the idea, it is also disgracefully dishonest for anyone who knows anything to even claim that there's a problem with hate online, because there never has been. The internet is arguably more tame now than it ever has been. And yet we still keep seeing these people rabble-rouse for more censorship, invariably from the corporations they advertise with. Don't you see what they're doing? They're trying to shield you from independent commentary because it became a political problem for them. The platforms themselves, they have a problem with the advertisers. The corporations, they have a problem because their partners lose money, potentially. People aren't, ad revenue. It's not a big thing anymore. Facebook's looking to branch out and making a cryptocurrency. Don't you see what they're trying to do? They're trying to maintain their monopolies. The legacy media is doing the same thing. All of these corporate firms. Yes, I'm sure that 6 or 7 figure cap-tooth fucking pundit up there that lives in a penthouse and works for a multi-million or billion-dollar firm is exactly the same as you, the little average person. And by the way, they should be the ones determining your reality. Just fucking trust us, you dumb fucks. Yeah, no thanks. That's about all. Peace out.